dealing with anybody listening. If I sound different or whatever, I had a cold for the last week with the throat thing. Little coughing, so I'll have a couple coughing spells, no doubt. It's going around big time, but
Yep. I'll try to cut them out so it's not a lot of coughing that you guys have to deal with. I'll take it for them.
Thanks.
I had something to say.
So
about that.
at some points, I might get you just to speak more than me, but I got lots to say.
Yeah, that's fine. Got anything to start with? I don't have anything to start with today.
I was happy on the weekend. My Guelph Storm got 2 in a row.
They did get 2 in a row.
Yeah, won 2 in a row. Really good hockey team. Or they played really good hockey. It was nice to see. Awesome. You know, the team hasn't started. I said this last week. They haven't started well, but they're basically selling out every game still. What a great place to play.
Big trade.
Yeah.
So they traded Sasha Pasajov to Sarnia.
Yep.
And we were talking about that last week because that was like big news. And a cool thing about that, so Sasha was their top point guy or one of their top point guys.
Yeah, last year, and he was pretty much this year.
Yeah. So
good kid.
What's the point I want to make on that, which I thought was interesting, is everyone was kind of saying about that trade, like all Guelph is like kind of packing it in for the year because obviously they had a tough start. They're selling the farm. All their top players are going to be gone, whatever. And that was kind of the thread of thinking about the trade. But then I heard George talking, who's the general manager to a guy they were doing an interview between periods on the game I was watching on Friday. And this just goes to show how you never know what's going on behind the scenes. So George was talking about the trade, and he was saying that because Sasha's probably going to be playing at the World Juniors this year with again with the United States of America.
Yeah. And
then after that, if something happens for whatever reason, he gets hurt or can't play, they're going to be without their top guy for at least a month.
Yeah.
And in the position that they're in right now, where they need to win some games, you can't really have a top player out for a month. They can't really afford that as much.
Yeah.
So one of the big motivators from what it sounded like George saying was kind of that, is that we're going to be missing him for at least a month, and then he's going to be gone for next year. He's not coming back next year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the rationale for trading him. Had nothing to do with, the team's not doing well, we're going to just trade everybody kind of thing. So I just want to point that out. I just want to point that out because people would not see that or not know that.
Yeah.
Right?
I wasn't going to say anything about the trade because they happen all the time. But since you brought it up, it actually, what you just said coincides to what we're going to be talking about today a little bit. Because when you said people thought that with that trade, they were just mailing it in now because they had a poor start.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no different than because we're talking today. What we're going to be talking about is we had a lot of comments on our last one because
videos,
we're talking about when how coaches where parents need to step in for their kids when a coach is maybe crossing the line and stuff. And then what happens is if you only look at the clips, you'll only get one perspective. I mean, and that first perception is like, so we on the last one, it was either like the world is too soft or everyone should play and there was no middle with no context. Yeah. So it's the same thing when people read blogs or look at trades and stuff without any knowledge or looking deeper into it, right? Without having a hockey mind, let's say, is you say, they traded someone because they don't like them anymore, or they stole, they're making a run, right? Yeah. Most of the time, right? So like, especially in junior hockey. So yeah, so what you said is totally true. Is Sasha's like a great kid in the locker room, good hockey player, puts a lot of points in, great on the power play, going to play for the World Juniors again, most likely. I think he did last year, and he probably will again this year. Mm-hmm. Could score a goal. Like, he's a great player. And initially when you look at that, you go, wow, they must be mailing it in now and just building for next year, but that's not true at all. Yeah. So they took the Nemestikov, who they got from Sarnia, was a 3rd overall pick, but he's a year younger. So now you have someone for 2 years, and you've got a really skilled, high-end skilled player that, first couple games he had 4, 6, 8 points, something like that.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean he's going to do that every time, but that's that. And then you're not going to lose him to the World Junior Tournament. And basically what George was saying there in that interview is that, like, we have to get we got to pile up the wins right now because of the poor start. And that makes sense. Plus, they got a whole bunch of draft picks for the future.
Yeah.
So someone could say, yeah, George just saying that. Yeah, maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe he is. But there is more to it than just unloading a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't give up. And the other thing is, you look at someone like George Burnett. He's been around for almost 40 years, 35 years. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the hockey mind and how it works and how he evaluates a player compared to another player, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So that's I kind of want to when you were talking about the weekend, it reminded me of that because we were sitting in there speculating about, well, why are they doing this trade? Why are they and then only for me to find out later that has nothing to do with anything we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's sort of this complete other reason that I never would have thought of, which is interesting. Now, you brought up the videos, so you want to start going into that here?
Sure.
So we had two big ones in the last week. So maybe I might overlay the videos in the episode so people can hear what the videos say.
Yeah, maybe.
And then we'll talk about like some of the comments. So I'll try to play, if I can play them, I'll try to play the first one, which I posted on mine. So this is my TikTok, my personal one. And I was talking about when you shouldn't lock yourself up in front of the net. So in the offensive zone, in the video, I'll overlay it so you guys can see what it is and whatever, it'll make more sense. But I was basically saying not to get locked up in the slot when your team is working the puck down low.
Yeah.
Right? Finding soft ice to get in shooting lanes to get a shot off is better when the puck is low. Okay, if you want to score more goals, I'm going to give you an example of what to do. Got the board out for you here today. So in this example, I'm going to assume that your team is working to keep the puck low. So they're doing work somewhere down here on the outside, okay? As a guy that doesn't have the puck, what you want to do is avoid getting stuck in this area right here, okay? And the reason for that is this is going to be obviously the most protected area of the ice, especially when the puck is working down low. And we see this all the time when we're doing drills with our guys on the ice during skill sessions. They always get themselves caught up in this area somewhere, where in a game, this is going to be guarded. You're not in a good spot to get a pass or to make a play, even if the puck does come there. Again, assuming your team is working with the puck somewhere on the outside, you want to find soft areas of the ice away from that heavily guarded zone. So ask yourself that question. If you're getting caught up in this area here, maybe try finding a softer area on the ice, and you have to work. You have to work hard to get there. But this gives guys a chance to find you. They can make passes to you in these areas because it's a lot harder for defenders to get outside of this very protected zone in front of the net. So make sure you're finding those soft areas of the ice and then getting shots off quick. Obviously, that's going to lead to a lot more goals. So, of course, everyone is freaking out. So I have 224 comments on this video. Many of them in the neighborhood of, so, like, how could you tell people to never go to the net?
That's not what you said.
That's not what I said.
Yeah.
That's not what I said. So, the problem, we've talked about this before, but there's a couple issues. One is, you need to, it's almost like people comment without even listening to the whole video, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, there's context in videos. So, it's like you have to pay attention to what specifically the person is talking about. And that's where like nuance of videos comes in. Like you have to, especially if it's 1 minute, like you can't really get into a huge dialogue about things if it's 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind is also important. And then the next thing that I don't really understand is like who are the people that are commenting, especially when it's like with such negativity.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the tone for a lot of them for me in this video was like, what are you, some kind of idiot? Like that was kind of the tone.
Yeah.
And just like if you look at my channel, even without knowing me, it's like obviously I've played some hockey before.
Yeah.
I train hockey, we teach hockey. Do you think that I actually believe, even if you heard the video as me saying never to go to the net, do you think that's actually what I would be saying? Like to never go to the net? So there's a lack of critical thinking about some of these videos. And I know we have another one that you're gonna look at too that people are kind of losing their shit about. But when you're listening, just as the backdrop before you go into what you're talking about, when you're listening to videos, we've talked about this before, make sure you're actually paying attention to what the video is about. I had a kid in here yesterday ask me about this exact video as well. And he was saying, yeah, at the start when I listened to it, I thought you were saying to never go to the net. Like, that's what I thought you were talking about. And part of that could be not good communication on my part. But if you listen to the whole video, like, it's clear what I'm talking about if you get past the first 10 seconds, right?
Yes.
So the kid listened to the whole thing. He's like, yeah, by the end, then I started to understand what you're talking about, how, like, in this situation, whatever. And that is what hockey is all about. Like, most things are like that. Everything is very circumstantial, and it's goes into that whole talk about the it depends thing that I always talk about. There's never black and white answers. Like, it's not never go to the net or always go to the net.
Yeah.
You know, it's not never eat this or always eat this. It's not black and white things. Everything depends on what the situation is, what you need, and what the topic is we're talking about, obviously.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with that as kind of the framework for the comments thing, which most people know, like, the comments are ridiculous. But for the video that I want to go into for you, when we were talking about the coaching thing. So I'm going to play, unless you want to cut in on that before I start.
What are you going to play something, you said?
No, I'll play it for them to hear after. But before I move on to the coach's video, is there anything else you want to throw in before we get into it?
No, this is my thing, man. Like, this is why, like, I don't even know what TikTok is. You know that. So, like, our purpose of this is to do for our listeners that actually enjoy hockey and the talks and stuff like that. And if you listen to our full podcast or half of a podcast or something, like, you're gonna get a lot different context of what a little 30-second TikTok does, where you take a clip and you don't have the context. So, it amazes me that someone, good or bad, actually comments. Based on whatever. Yeah. So that's all I got to say.
Yeah. It's like 60 second, like, spliced up clip. So the reason, that, I mean, I like going through this kind of stuff because you kind of get to see where people's heads are at, because these are, like, the average people, right? And, like, I don't personally know a lot of people that comment on stuff, but there's a lot. So this video we posted on the PowerTech account, and it's, about how coaches are dealing with players. So basically what you were saying, I'll play the clip, but you're talking about if you're a player and you feel like your coach is not paying attention to you, you're sitting on the bench, they're not giving you any ice time and not communicating with you at all. So it's kind of in that was the context of the video, and I'll try to play it so you guys can hear what it is before we start talking about the comments. So
when you shit on a player early, you're actually ripping his heart out. You're taking his confidence right out of everything. For what? If you're sat on a bench, man, and your coach overlooks you every single time or doesn't pay any attention to you, a kid, man, that just wants to play hockey is sitting there, and you know what they're doing? Like, and I know this sounds because I did it at 16. I was on the bench literally like this. What's going on? Why am I not playing? Like, and you know, you do the look at the coach thing, like, did you forget about me? Like, I was heartbroken. And then you go home at night and you're going, what the heck? It beats you down when a kid's playing midget, Bantam, Pee-wee, Atom, U60, whatever you call these freaking things now. You don't have the right to break their heart. You don't have that right, coach. You have zero right doing that. You have to find a way to make it work. So any of you that think that, well, not good enough, you're just gonna have to suck it up. You're not that tough. They're a tough guy.
And it's worse than that too, because it spills into other parts of their life. That kid goes to school with his buddies that all got to play on the weekend and feels like shit for the whole day at school, or he's embarrassed or humiliated or whatever. It actually affects their development in other parts of their life. This is in the episode we talked about if parents, or when parents should step in, like you said, with the coach. So you can take it from there.
Yeah. So like just to clear that up, like, right away, it's like, yes, like, so well, here's some of the comments. Okay. So, like, I just wrote 2, suck it up. So that's like, suck it up. Like, you're either good at, like, and there was a lot of, you're either good enough or you're not. If you can't play at this level, leave. You guys are soft, all this kind of stuff. It's like I wouldn't be considered soft, guys.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, so those are the guys that, yeah. So, and then on the other side, you have people say, yes, everyone should play fair. Everybody should have a chance. Like, so you got, everyone gets a trophy, eh? Then everyone should get a trophy. Like, so you had both sides, and it's like so extreme that it's crazy. Took out of context that in the podcast, what we're talking about is, in youth hockey, at a certain level.
Yeah.
We're talking house league, everyone should play. We're talking up to a certain point. Yes, as you go to AAA, the competition gets a little bit different. There should be some sort of an understanding that at certain times people need to play a little bit more. But then at the same time, coaches have to find a way to get guys in the game. And if a coach doesn't get guys into the game or just benches guys or just rolls two lines, it's like, dude, you're breaking a kid's heart. It's unnecessary. And for the guys that say, well, tough for those kids, it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like there's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that was a context of it. So what I wanted to say about that, like I just talked about a couple of things here, like using that as a thing, because I just wanted to say one thing for the parents. So now the other caveat would be this. Once, and I said this in the podcast, once you get to junior college and up, people are making money, players are making money, school is being paid for, you're performance based, you can be cut, you can be scratched, you can get sent down. Anything goes at that level because it's about winning, right?
Yeah.
And that was the other thing with youth hockey. It is about winning. It's like, okay, great. And yes, at AAA levels, I would say all levels of AAA, there is a certain amount that it's about development, but then there's a certain degree about winning as well. Mm-hmm. Like you do want to win. So no one wants to just see lines rolled all the time. There's a time where someone deserves a little extra shift and someone for various reasons. And it could be because we need a goal and there's certain guys you need on the ice. And it's not like for 2 periods straight, or it might be a championship game where it's important to get your guys on the ice. And then there's other times where you need to roll them. So as you get higher up in the AAA loops, of course, it's going to get a little bit more competitive. So that makes sense. And the less competitive of a league that you play in or level of hockey you play in, the more appropriate it is to play more players, like everybody. And the thing is like I said, is like if your best player is moping and are doing bad habits, he deserves to miss a shift or two, or to learn, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, so what I wanted to say about that is, so you have the two things: suck it up, toughen up. Life ain't fair. That's the one side, right? If you can't compete, don't play up. What would be another one? Whatever, we'll say that.
Yeah.
And then on the other side is everyone should play no matter what. And so I looked at this and I said, because I used my own son for an example, right? I was talking about this yesterday with you. It's so funny. It's like whatever lens it applies to you is the one that you're going to lean to. So I'm, as a coach, as a player, as a trainer, as a we haven't done anything else. A few things, whatever.
Parent,
as a parent, but as a parent, that's right. You look at it through different lenses. So when I watched my son play AAA, the first year he ever played AAA, the coach, all he ever did was roll lines, and it drove me nuts. And the reason it drove me nuts, so this might go against the people that are saying everyone should play. Well, the reason it drove me nuts, and he wasn't the best player on the team at that point, but he was top, maybe the top 5. What drove me nuts about it is because there was never a point where he would just say, okay, let's try to win this game. Let's actually put our best guys on the ice for like a couple minutes here, or a game that was important to them. It was like, no, next guy up. So if let's say my son got 2 penalties in a row, he would go out and he did, maybe he did. He would go out, serve the penalty, but the lines would roll, and it could pretty much go right back to him, and he'd just step on the ice and play. Well, is that fair? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you punish guys for penalties, because some are good penalties.
It just depends on the situation.
Depends on the situation. Maybe he's not having a great night, and he's loafing it, and because he's 12. And the coach says, well, Charlie, you don't want to play tonight. Someone else will. That's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I'm saying that as a dad, and I'm saying that as a coach, and I'm saying that as a player. That's okay. Someone else wants to play, they'll play for you, right? That's okay. So that first year in AAA, it would drive me nuts that the coach never ever wanted to win, and he would just roll the lines because he wanted to be fair at all costs. But when you're trying to be fair at all costs, you're not fair at all.
Yeah,
right?
Equal.
Yeah. So then we got to in AAA where he was the next year, he was like a top dog, right? So then I'd be watching the game through my dad lenses because I'm a human being and we're all kind of the same. And the coach would maybe roll the lines, and then now I'm like, what the hell is he doing, right? You got to get your best guys out there because I'm a dad and we want to win. And I'm looking at it like my kid's better than all those guys. So if you get on the ice, we're going to win this game. Real simple.
Yeah.
Or have a better chance. So then he goes to his first year in the OHL. And now I'm watching games, and it's like every shift that he's on the ice, like I'm watching, it's like, yeah, come on, have a good shift, don't screw up, whatever. And then you get to a 5-1 game or a 6-1 game, and as a dad now, you want to flip the page. It's like, well, come on, you got to get these guys on the ice. So it depends on whatever lens you're looking at. So if your kid's probably one of the better kids, then you're going to probably lean towards, you should play to win, or you should play your best guys. And then if your kid's one of the lower level guys that struggles for ice, you're going to be the parent that's sitting there and goes, everybody needs to play. Like if you give everyone a chance, we're gonna have a chance to win.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So
go ahead.
And so I really like, because you were saying that when we were talking yesterday, and you lay it out perfect. It's like just as a recap, because these are the people that are commenting, right? They go to whatever applies most to them in the situation they're currently in. So if you have a kid on the team that is the top dog, always getting played, then you're, as a parent, more likely to be like, well, my kid's better than your kid, so
you're not going to complain.
Just suck it up.
Yeah, there's nothing to complain about.
Those kids need to suck it up,
right?
That they don't get to play, because if they need to play better, right?
Although what they typically complain about is when a lower level kid gets ice and makes a mistake or doesn't do very well. You hear those, me included. It's like, well, kid can't play. That's what happens
for sure. Yeah. So if you fall into that category where you have a kid that's a better player, then you're going to say, well, it doesn't matter if the coach wants to sit the kids, like they need to play better. Okay. Then if you have a kid that's getting sat, it's like, well, the kid's got to play at some point. Like he's supposed to develop. So you're for sure, like that's a great way of laying it out. And you got to see with Charlie going through the ranks, exactly that. Like his first year in the OHL, it was exactly that. It'd be a 6-1 game and all the top dogs are still on the ice. And you're just like, well, get the kid a shift, like let him on the ice, right? Because he's a young first year player. Now, into his second year where he's playing his regular shift and he's getting good ice time. If there's a point in the game where
that's what I said about in the OHL right? Now.
Because now he's getting in a position where he's getting more minutes, and if there's a crunch time situation and you see that the fourth line goes out or the first year guys go out, you're like, well, why are these guys on the ice?
That's exactly what I do.
So yeah,
exactly.
It's like and every parent does that. Yeah. Every person watching who's like invested in a particular
we're all
player.
Selfish.
Yeah, you look at it through your own selfish lens, and that's exactly what we saw with this clip. Now, if you listen to the full podcast, you get the whole array of context because we play both sides of everything all the time. Because as we always say, it depends on what's going on, right?
100%.
But for the people that are commenting, it's like you have to check your own bias. You have to check where exactly do you lie on that spectrum of how you think a coach should be treating your player. And this is just one example. Like you can do this for anything. Like you want to get into debates about diets or training methods or your class at school or whatever. It's like, it's always the same shit. It's like you have your own thing that you want to go to, and you have to be able to step back, especially when you're invested that much, right? Because you know you're going to get locked up in your own circumstance and not really see it from the other guy's perspective. So if you're playing at a AAA level, like I said, and like you just laid out, it should be to some degree about winning still. It is about the development. You do obviously guys need to play, because for the kid we were talking about in that episode, and the one example we were using, it's like the kid, he shouldn't be not playing that much. Like he should be playing more than he's playing. On the other side, when it's crunch time, that doesn't mean that kid should always be playing and get all the ice if he's a weaker player on the team, you know? So you have to be able to recognize that and be honest about what the league is. It's not one or the other. It's not just development and it's not just winning. It's a combination of the two, and the older you get, the higher level you go, the more it's going to start to skew towards winning, where nobody cares about your feelings anymore. Because the second you step out of minor youth hockey into junior, at any level, it doesn't even matter what level of junior it is, that's over. Like the development, even though they say it's about development, the way that the teams are run and the way that the coaches are playing to win, that is not number one. Like number one is we got to win games, man. That's number one.
That's my job's on the line. I was gonna save this for later, but then I'll go back to what I was gonna say because I got a little thing about parents in this situation, then coaches in this situation, how to maybe balance it out. But here's an example of this is, I guess, kind of like for the tough guys out here that they tell everybody to toughen up,
Yeah.
and it's snowflake. We're like people are snowflakes that want everything fair.
Yeah.
The super tough guys I'm talking about,
Yeah.
the ones that just say life ain't fair and suck it up, and if you can't get your ice, go to a lower level. Don't complain. Okay, but here's the thing, because it catches up to you at some point. So I'll get rid of this piece first. So when I was coaching in Detroit, I had a super team, right? So in that super team, everybody thought that they were the best. Okay.
Yep.
So everybody, most of the parents, well, I would say not most, every parent on that team thought their kid was the best player on the team. And every player would have been 100% play your best players because they thought they were that parent.
Right.
Every single one of them. So all 17 or 18 guys. 17 guys we had. Goalies included. They thought their kid was the best. So the funny thing is that even though everyone thought their kid was the best, it's impossible. So, and they always talked about, play your best because they never thought their kids were going to be the ones. Well, they were shocked when it wasn't their kid on the first power play. They were shocked when they weren't, when you could kind of figure out who the first, second, and third line was. They're shocked that someone would get an extra shift here and there. Not here and there. So we had power plays and penalty kills. We had to, right? Absolutely shocked that their kid wasn't included in that first one. And people come up to me and they would lose their shit. And I had an ex-NHLer, played a lot of years as my assistant coach, and we both we'd laugh. It's like it's so good when to be the tough guy when you're not the one with the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now when you consider, you thought you were the best guy in Michigan or whatever, or North America, or whatever, and then all of a sudden your coaches have a different opinion of what type of player you are, it's not so fun. Now you see dads walking around with their arms crossed and their eyes crossed, and their ears crossed, their legs crossed, everything. There's puffs of smoke coming out their ears with that, they look like they're weaned on a dill pickle all the time, like life sucks. The tough act, so I just put there, is the tough act is good usually until it's your kid.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you have a little bit of, well, that's not fair. Yep. So you can be that guy, but I saw it live.
Well, yeah, and they also talk about it like the toughen up stuff, like it's a black and white thing, like we talked about before, right? Yeah. It's like just like everyone needs to tough it out and whatever. And it's like, man, there's circumstances, dude. Like you need to be able to see what's actually going on, because there's sometimes in life when things are actually just shitty and not fair and not good.
Yeah.
And that needs to be addressed, right? You can't just here.
Oh, thanks.
You can't just say in every circumstance all the time that whoever the person is just needs to tough it out and be tough. It's like, yeah, there's a time and a place for that, for sure.
Yeah.
But we're talking, in the example we were giving, it's like we're talking about those extreme cases where it's not necessary to be that way, obviously, because we're the first ones in line to say, hey, man, like, you're fine, tough it out, or hey, you need to do better, sit on the bench, or I'm not giving you this opportunity because you don't deserve it. It's like we're the first people to say that. So it's not that we're against toughing it out. And I'm not even saying, I don't mean to make it sound like it's personal about us in the comments or anything, but just from a philosophy perspective, there's a time and a place for both of those perspectives, right? And it's being a good coach and a good parent and a good teammate and a good whatever to read when it's appropriate to do which thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's not just always tough it out or whatever. So
that's right. It's easy to take a clip. So anyways, what I want to say is, here is my decision. Okay. As a parent. So this is for parents now. When you're putting your kid in the game, you might not understand the game and you might have a skewed version of what your son is or whatever. But I looked at it this way. If my son, so this is like the protecting of my child and saving me a bunch of money and whatever. Is when my son was going to play at the AAA level, so he did that when he was 12 or 13, 12. I looked and I said, well, if, I'm pretty sure that he's going to be a top 5 on that team.
Yeah.
right? So that makes sense for me to do it. So if he was a 10, I would not have had him go to AAA yet. So that was my first decision. So that, and is that good or bad? Well, for me, the decision was if you're not a top player, then to me, playing at the AAA level made no sense to me. Now, for some parents, that might make sense. But for me, it made zero sense for my son to be an average player playing AAA and not because he would probably do better at a AA level of development, or he's just not that good of a hockey player. So I'm not going to invest all kinds of time, money, energy, and fake my way through. Oh, my kid's like a superstar hockey player. He's average. That's what he would have been, average. So at average, I'm not going to go to the highest level because part of it is because I understand where an average player ends up at 16 or 17 or 18, right? It was kind of like, I'm not going to invest the time, the energy, the money, and,
it's a lot of resources,
and dial him in
to
something that he could never be.
Yeah.
So because he had like a huge desire, had talent, was willing to do the work, and the mental focus, I said, yeah, let's go for sure. Okay, so that's that. But at the same time, as a dad, as a mom, I'm not the mom, by the way, my wife was. And the people around him all the time were always telling him proper stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it was always about hard work. It was always about learning details. It was always about learning a 200-foot game. It was always telling him beforehand that, like I told Charlie, I said, your biggest issue you're going to have going through minor hockey is me. And people might say, well, you would be the biggest asset to him. And yeah, sort of, kind of. The asset that I was to him is that I had experience. The asset that I had to him is that he was hanging around with actual hockey players, professional and junior hockey players his whole life, and that he had access to ice basically whenever he wanted in my training or our training systems and stuff. So that was the asset. But the biggest thing was, and make no mistake about this, is there was a jealousy factor, or it would be nice to see this kid fail. That's reality. So I prepared him for that, and I think every parent needs to do that. So like if you're looking at a kid if you're looking at the kid and it's like because a lot of teams do this, right? They sign players early and then they got like maybe 4 spots left. So if you're like 7, 8, 9 or 10, 11, 12, then you got to have a talk with your kid to say like, all right, so we know where you stand. There's no, don't sugarcoat it. You know where you stand. So might be a harder year than you think you're going to have. Doesn't mean you can't be good. You have to work for everything you get and all those kind of talks. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or just your kid's personality. Like my wife brought it to my attention probably more than I realized, but she said, I hope he's not a problem in the room, our son. I go, why would you think that? He goes, because he never shuts up, but not in a bad way. He's always talking to guys, and
but it depends.
For sure,
it depends who you're dealing with, right? Because like for some people, like the kid that's always yapping is like you're a pain in my ass. For other people, the kid that never talks is a pain in the ass.
That's what I mean.
So it's like it just depends on the personalities, right?
Yes. Yeah. So like with my kid on the bench, it could be, come on, guys, like, or the coach could hear him say, if you get that deep, I'll do this, you do this, or whatever. They're having actually a constructive hockey talk. The coach might look at that and say, look, you think you know everything, eh?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Dude, that happened to me in junior. I remember my last year. I've talked about this coach a bunch, that just me and him were no way, man. We did not mix. And I remember him doing that exact thing to me on the bench. Like me, like trying to keep the boys up or whatever, talking on the bench, and him looking me right in the face and saying, that's enough. Like, stop talking. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, right? Where it's just like, you think you're doing something for the team and the personalities just don't jive. But that's good. That's a good outline, because parents have to keep that in mind so that you don't get into a situation like we're talking about in this video. You can do things for your kid to get them set up and get them prepared to deal with a coach like that, or put them in a better situation where they'll be more successful, right? Because to a certain degree, you want your kid to face adversity and have to battle and those types of things.
You do.
But you don't want them to be in such a so behind the eight ball, or it's just a losing battle, that there's no way they'll ever be rewarded because they're just not good enough, or they just don't care enough. And that's kind of where, if you're like more of a bottom end player on a AAA team, that's kind of where you can start to think about, okay, maybe if we go play it in the AA atmosphere, maybe that's actually better for the kid. It's better. He'll be a better player. He'll be one of the better players there. He'll get more ice there, and he'll maybe have that confidence of playing again, where you don't feel like you're just getting buried on a AAA team when you're 14 or whatever. It's like, because it's not necessary. You know?
As we're talking about this, what's going through my mind is that the comments on this one is going to be, well, yeah, but so you're saying if your kid's not the best, not to challenge. I know where this is going.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So funny.
For sure.
And on the other side is, I know this as a trainer and as a coach, is a kid's body language. This is another thing parents have to kind of like help your kid. So if your kid is like super quiet, never looks someone in the eye, super shy, looks disinterested, that's exactly what they're going to look like to the coach. Okay. So you try to teach your kid to look guys in the eye, to be assertive in their speaking and in their play. And because you don't want the coach questioning, like, yeah, I don't really actually think the kid wants to be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So it's like, there's a lot of things you could do as a parent to dial it in. And then the lessons that happen, like, there are going to be things that happen, good and bad, right? Like, and some kids are going to have a hard time. And I don't know, and I actually, being sincere about this, I don't know if quitting is the best answer, or if it's really bad. I don't know. Because you don't want to teach your kid to quit. So, if you're having a rough year where you got a coach that's like all over you, or not giving you a lot of ice and stuff like that, as a parent, you don't want to total baby them, and you do want to teach them about the life lessons, right? The hard work, and about the people that are around you and how to deal with them. And the worst thing though is to say it's not that it's not fair, but
You're a victim.
You don't want to always be a victim.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. You don't want to be a victim. You want to work hard and find pride within yourself and the family that you found small victories.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
I'm thinking of so kind of along the same lines, is you have to be able to balance both sides of it, right? The challenge part, which is it's huge, man. You have to be able to put your kid in a situation where they have to battle, but they have to be in an environment where they can get a win here and there.
Like
right?
An individual.
Yes. Like, it can't just be only a battle. Like, there has to be some battle, but they have to be able to win. And this is like, it goes down to the way that the brain works, man. Because I remember learning about when they do research about play, like when they did it with rats, but they end up looking at how it works with humans. So if they have rats like wrestle, that's how rats play with each other, they'll wrestle. So if they pair like a big rat with a small rat, the small rat has to win at least 30% of the time, or it doesn't want to play anymore. So that's still a losing percentage. So like, if this small rat, let's say if they win 30% of the time, they'll keep trying to wrestle the bigger rat.
Yeah.
If they
think they have a chance.
They think they have a chance. If they can win 30% of the time, they can see like, okay, maybe I can make progress. Maybe I can at some point, I'll be able to beat this thing that I'm battling against, even though it's only 30%. A 30% win percentage sucks. Like, you're no good if it's 30%, right? So they need to be given a bone here and there, right? It can't be something where it's such a battle that they can never win. They have to be able to get a win here and there, or they're just going to quit. And everybody knows that. Like, if you keep doing anything over and over and over and you always suck at it, you stop doing that thing. If you play guitar and every time you play it, you break a string because you're so bad, you're not going to play anymore. You don't want to do that. You'll go do something else. So in this environment, that's
me with computers.
Yeah, that's right.
Eric. How do I turn this on?
Yeah, it's exactly it.
Just email it.
So keep that in mind though, because that's exactly it, man. You don't want your kid to quit. You want him to have to battle, but you don't want him to quit. And if you want to find that balance, then they have to be able to get some wins. In whatever the environment is, whether it's on their team or individually or whatever, they have to get something where they feel like they're accomplishing something at some point to some degree. That it has to happen here and there. And that's why it can't just be tough guy mentality or just suck it up. It's like, to a certain degree, suck it up, but you have to be able to get a win at some point or you're not in the right place. You should be somewhere else, know? So,
yeah. And then from the coach's perspective, hopefully you recognize that the kid needs a win. This is what we're saying. Yeah. I got one more.
Yeah, you finish yours and then we'll do
from
mine.
The coach's perspective now is, and this I'm talking about the people that were like, everyone should play fair, or the coach should play everyone fair, or the other side is you're here to win. All right. So I don't have a problem with a coach who's there to win at all costs, or I don't have a no. Yeah, that's right. That's what I was going to say. I don't have a problem with a coach that says, even in youth hockey, that I'm here to win at all costs. I have no problem with that. So that's going to set some people off.
Yeah.
At all costs, I'm here to win. But the caveat to that is you have to tell everyone first, so that you can choose. So if someone, so now a parent can look and say, well, I don't want to be the 12th player on the team because he's going to play only to win. I'll go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I have no problem at all if a coach says, I'm here to win. That's it. That's all. At least everybody knows. And you can make a decision from there, and then you can't really complain.
Yeah,
right?
That's the communication thing again,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
As long as you're up front
Yeah.
and you're transparent about what your philosophy is and
Yeah.
how you're going to treat your team, then people can make a decision on
Yeah.
whether or not they want to be a part of that. You know what I mean?
And on the flip side, I have no problem at all if a coach says, I will roll the lines and there's not one chance I'm doing anything else. I have no problem with that as long as everyone knows, because I would be out.
Yeah.
I would be totally out of that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I think it's important that the coaches know, and I think that's every team has one of these meetings at the beginning of the year, and the coaches tell the players and the parents how great everything's going to be and their philosophies, and that's got to be one of them, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not that, then you got to be doing both. You got to be playing to win the best you can and playing kids according to, basically not equal but fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that you're giving kids a chance. You give them a chance to succeed, right?
Yeah.
And there are certain times when you are playing in normal circumstances. There are times when certain players should be on the ice, and there's certain times where other kids should be on the ice in certain situations, right?
Yeah.
You need a goal. You need your goal scorers out there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to shut it down. You need your shutdown guys. Sometimes your best players, or most of the time your best player or two or three, are good at both. So it is what it is.
Yep.
Right. And this is at a competitive level. And why again, for some of the people that were like, you should roll lines only, it's like, or play fair only. It's like, yes, but what if a kid comes in with just a bad attitude, breaking maybe a team rule, or taking just bad penalties, or just lazy, not working hard? That's not fair either, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it's important that or not following the system the way you're supposed to. Sometimes a coach has to say, I understand that you don't understand this system, or you choose not to, so I want you to sit and watch a couple shifts, and until you understand that, you can't play in this situation, because that's learning as well.
Yep.
Right? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I got one more. This is kind of the biggest one for me, which I'm kind of glad you didn't say it, because now we can really lay it out, because I think it's going to take some extra time to go through. But so there's two sides to the thing that I want to talk about. When I was flipping through these comments, a huge proportion of them were coming from somebody telling the story of how the coach screwed them. Yep. Right? So this goes at the very start of the video. You said, if you've sat on the bench and you're doing that thing where you're looking at your coach like, did you forget about me, kind of thing. There was a bunch of these comments that were someone telling me the story of that happening to them, right? So there's two elements to that. So the first side, I'm going to go from the coach's side first. The fact that I would say over 50% were negatively speaking about their coach. Okay, so this goes back to one of the conversations we had about, if you think back and remember your coaches, or you remember your teachers or whatever, there's only a few that stick out as being good, that really had a positive impact on you. And the rest of them are just kind of, either you don't remember them, or you know that they weren't very good. So that's the first thing, is kind of a call out to the coaches. Like, this video is a nice sample of the impact that our coaches are having. Like, on average, it's negative here. Now, does that mean that all coaches are negative? No, but it could be a function of you aren't communicating well enough for the kids to understand what's actually going on. So I have one comment here I wanted to read, and there's a bunch like this, but this was one that a lot of them are kind of along this line. So this guy says, commenting on the video, couldn't agree more. I'm 16 now, and I had a coach when I was around 10 who ruined the game for me, and it really impacted the rest of my life. So that 10-year-old, when he was 10, now 16, saying this impacted my life. Like, this coach I had impacted my life negatively, right? So that's something that coaches have to take responsibility for, because you know that you can impact players like this. Whether you're doing it or not on purpose, like whether you're purposely screwing a kid, because I don't think coaches are often purposely screwing kids, but you can see the perception for a kid, right? If he gets sat, or you yell at him once like real bad, or you really call him out in front of the team, or these are things that can have lasting impacts. So it's important as a coach that you take that part of it seriously. You know, you don't want the average comment about a coach to be negative. Like, you don't want the majority of the comments to be, my coach was an asshole, right? Whether you deserve it or it's just bad communication, either way, that's on you as the coach to do a better job, so that this isn't what people are saying about their coach. You know, it's amazing. Like, we got 381 comments on this, and good 50, 60, 70% of them are people sharing their story about why this is so true. You know, you got something?
And no, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
and especially when we're talking youth, like the youth, especially, like you get to junior and up, it's a whole different ball game. It's not the best way, and coaches are so much smarter right now that they actually do manage people better. But like in youth sports, that's just ridiculous. There is no toughen it up thing. It's you need to treat kids right.
Or at least you need to communicate the lesson. Right?
That's my point.
It's like, to your point, like,
Yeah.
if a kid comes off and he just really screwed something up, and you just sit him without saying anything, a 10-year-old doesn't necessarily know what they did wrong, or a 14-year-old, like, they don't necessarily know. So if you're not telling them, hey, like, you did this and this, not the best for this reason, I need you to do this. So watch a couple shifts, and then I'm going to give you another chance to go fix it, or whatever it is however you deal with it. Like, the kid needs to know the message, so they don't walk away thinking, my coach thinks I'm shit, he hates my guts, I shouldn't play hockey ever again because I'm so bad at it. Like, these are, because kids will jump to that even if that's not the case, but you as the adult are making them in a way think that, you know, because the kids will right away go to like head down, moping, sad, like the world is ending, because kids are like that, man. They're dramatic about things that aren't necessarily that big of an issue.
The other side is sometimes a kid might make a mistake. Maybe not a system according to the system, but sometimes a kid sees something different than what the coach saw from the ice level, from what, from his vantage point, from whatever. So
I have one example. I remember we were out here 3-on-3 tournament. I've said this example to you before. It's 3-on-3. Like, so we're talking one end zone 3-on-3 tournament for 10-year-olds. The coaches, because we always make sure that all the young teams have a coach, like somebody that's there to watch the team. Like this one guy, and I have a million examples of this, but this guy was losing his mind watching the 3-on-3 tournament. So a kid who, he couldn't have been more than 10 years old, carried the puck in front of his own net.
Yeah. Oh yeah, never
in the 3-on-3, and this coach pulled this kid out of the play during the 3-on-3 game, looked him right in the face and said, you never ever take the puck in front of your own net ever. He said ever that many times. And I'm like sitting, because I'm like coasting around watching both sides, and I hear him say this, and I'm looking at him yell at this kid, and I'm like, okay, first of all, not the appropriate time or the appropriate way to deliver that message, even if it was true. And then the second thing is, like, sometimes you go in front of the net. Like, sometimes you take the puck in front of your own net. It's not the safest play ever if there's a whole bunch of shit going on. But if that's where the open lane is, or that's where the pass is, or you have time, why can't you go in front of the net? You can go in front of the net. So not only are you yelling and screaming at a 10-year-old in a 3-on-3 tournament, you're not giving him the correct advice. You know, you're giving him a black and white blanket statement that's not even appropriate. So now this kid, for no reason, is going to be like, well, my coach just screamed at me that I can never go in front of the net ever. And now he's going to be like, okay, can't ever do that. And that's actually not right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So this is the kind of
spots on that one.
Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff that the coaches can run into. So that's what I wanted to say, is you have to take some accountability as coaches that this isn't what your players say about you. That's on you, right? Whether it's because you're an asshole or because you're not communicating well, that's on you as the coach to fix that problem. Now, on the flip side, this is what we were talking about the other day also, is all these people telling me their poor me story about their coach screwing them. How many of those are actually the coach was screwing you? And how many was it you deserved it, or you weren't listening, or you didn't get the message, or you listened to the tone like we talked about before? So there's, on the flip side of it again, because it always depends on the situation, not everybody got screwed by their coach. And that's another common thread that I find, especially with guys I play with. Like, I could even myself be prone to saying that. Like, when I think back on playing juniors, like, this guy really hindered my progress, or this guy really, and there could be an element of truth to that, but that doesn't mean I have no responsibility in the reason why things didn't work out or whatever, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because as soon as you said that, like, I could sit there and I could say, but it's not true. I could say my first year in the OHL, my coach screwed me, but that would be like far, 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 far from the truth. He wasn't there to help me, but who knows? Because I was a young 16-year-old kid playing in the jungle, and I didn't have the experience. I wasn't ready mentally to deal with that situation. I've never seen that before. So when someone doesn't see that, like, and it's just common. I didn't know. I'm saying this as honest as I possibly can. I thought when I went to the OHL, because I got so many points and I was a superstar youth, that I thought I would just step in the league, and I wouldn't have been. I don't know what I thought my numbers would be, but I thought I'd get like probably 20, 30 goals for sure. That's so stupid. But I didn't have anyone to tell me I couldn't or wouldn't or shouldn't. So, and I thought I was going to be playing. I thought for sure I was on the power play, 100%. I was a goal scorer to the bone. So when the coach doesn't say anything and all of a sudden you're sitting in the middle of the bench, like, I could say that it ruined me, but it didn't. What ruined me, nothing ruined me, but what was the challenge there was me. I wasn't prepared. My family, and I'm not blaming my family either. My family didn't prepare me. How the hell would they know how this thing works? It's a different animal. So the onus was on me to figure it out if I wanted to want it bad enough, and I did. I figured it out. So the only time that I had coaching issues, I would say, was my first year in the OHL, and they weren't really coaching issues. They were my issues that I had to be better at. So I could sit there and say, well, if I had a different coach, well, you don't know that. I don't know that. I might have had a better coach to explain the process of whatever to help me get through it. That, hey, you're 16. This guy's 20. This guy's a first round pick to the LA Kings. This guy's a second round pick to Nordiques. This guy's a second round pick to the Nordiques as well. That guy's fourth round to Buffalo. Chicago, right? Oh, yeah. I guess I'm young. I guess I should probably just learn more and just do well every shift that I get. And coach, what can I do to make myself better? But I didn't know that, right? So the coach didn't ruin it. I wasn't mature enough to take the message or the understanding of the game yet. And now when I look back as an adult, or it didn't take me that long after, it's like, oh my, and especially when I coached in the OHL, I was like, and I watched my kid now and the 16-year-olds now, I go, like, even my son turning 17 next week, watching the 16-year-olds come in now, I'm like, God, they're young. They're not really, really ready for this.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I got this same exact story. Like, when I think back to when I was playing in junior, my first coach was like my bread and butter guy, man. This guy, he could read me like a book. He knew exactly how to play me. He knew exactly how to get the most out of me. We had a good relationship, communicating, like, everything about it was perfect. Well, as happens in junior, coaches leave, management changes, you get traded, whatever happens. Well, now I got a new coach, and my new coach and I, like I said, did not jive. Now I could do the same thing and say, well, I could have had my Division I scholarship if this guy kept me on the same path as I was before. But I used the example before of him telling me, like, I should play like Scott Hartnell, who I'd never thought ever was a guy that I should play like. But what that says to me now, when I think about it, is I wasn't playing in the role that he thought I should be playing in. Like, I was not doing the things I needed to do for that team. Where he saw me fitting in that team, I wasn't doing it. And that's why I didn't get the same opportunity that I got when I was in a different role on a different team. That's my problem, And I can say he didn't communicate it well enough to me. We didn't, like, those things I can say that, and that's fine. But he didn't screw me, man. Like, he didn't sit on the bench like, I'm going to bury this kid. Like, this kid, he doesn't deserve one thing. It's like, no, I probably wasn't playing the way he wanted, and it was annoying. So I didn't get as much opportunity as I might have had I been able to have that line of communication, because as you did and as most guys do in junior, I'm the point guy. right? That's what I thought when I was in junior. I'm the guy that gets the points. And I didn't know about the stuff that we talk about all the time now. I didn't know about having a role, having my 3-4 things, like doing things that aren't based on scoring and getting points. I did not know that. Like no one ever taught me that. Like people would say you have to do the little things and like those. But
Play away from the puck.
yeah,
And you
but
don't even know what that means.
yeah, it's not specific, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing for me to do there. I don't know what to do about that. You know, finish your hits, like things people say that, but it's like specifically what can I do? I didn't know any of that stuff either, man. So when I look back, I could play the one side, like a lot of people in these comments are saying, like, "Oh, he screwed me. He didn't play me. He never acted like I wasn't even part of the team and all that." And maybe for some of these situations, it was actually a legit asshole coach that really did that. But I guarantee for most of the people, it's probably something similar to what me and you were saying, where it's like, yeah, if you look at it in the one light, you can blame your coach, or if you look at it in another light, maybe it was you, maybe you were a kid and you didn't know, or the communication wasn't there, or whatever. You know what I mean? So I wanted to play that last part because that's probably the most common thing I saw on this video that people were saying is telling me their story or telling us their story about the coach screwed them, you know, and that is likely not the case 70% of the time. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, make sure that you can actually reflect back and figure out take as much responsibility as you can for the thing that is negatively impacting you, because there's something you can do, man. It's not just the woe is me, like sit on the bench and cry about it, because that's not helpful, even if it is true, you know? So.
Yeah. Can I say two last comments that I got a good kick out of?
Sure.
I just laugh at this one. Yeah. I got a whole bunch here that I loved.
Yeah.
But the one is the guy was talking about when I was talking, because this guy must have sat a lot.
Yeah.
This guy took the comment like I was complaining about my life.
And
I got sat a lot. So the other one, this is great. Life sucks and it's not fair, man. Like this talk about the kids that have if that haven't seen ice or whatever as youth. Yeah. As youth.
Yeah, youth.
Just like the good content. Yeah. Life sucks, man. It's not fair. That buttercup shit don't fly. Everyone gets a trophy, eh? I'm not expecting a trophy, and that's not the message, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line for me with the comment stuff is
it's funny.
Well, first it's like funny because people think like that I don't even know what they think. Like I don't know if they like, especially when people try to like say things that are personal, like try to like this guy must have sat a lot or whatever. It's like first thing that people need to understand is like nobody cares, like it doesn't matter. But then the second thing is when you're listening to a clip or a video, and I mean we're never, it's not like we're going to solve the world problem here because it's going to be a problem no matter what, but for kids and for parents, it's like you have to listen to go to the source to find information, man. It's like you don't listen to a 1-minute clip and then you take that just for what it is, and that's all the information that you're going to get. It's like these episodes that we make are an hour and a half long, like, and that it's like that for most places you go for information. It's like one little piece of a huge network of things that are all weaving, right? Because this video was one portion of the podcast where it's like a network of things and a network of circumstances where it depends on everything, you know, and we're talking about one very specific thing. You know what I mean? Well,
it was funny because and a lot of people don't know and probably don't care who Jordan Peterson is. Mm-hmm. But I was having a conversation. If you don't, that's you look him up, whatever. We were talking one day and I was using a quote from him. It says, really smart guy. So the person goes, oh, is that the guy that talks about gender stuff? I go, that's like, you saw one clip.
That's like a very small clip.
He's
portion.
A psychologist. Yeah. And he's like, talks about everything. And
he mostly doesn't talk about that.
Mostly doesn't talk about that, but that's what people think he is. He's, they say he's like, I don't know what the words are because I'm
super controversial type of guy.
Yeah, or just really right wing. I don't even like using that stupid word. Yeah, and it's not exactly what it is. It's just a couple clips on it because he get challenged on that, and he goes on debates and stuff and talks about. But everything else, it's a very small piece, and it's the same thing as the clips, taking stuff out of context. My personal thing to finish on today, and you can finish on whatever you want, is you just said about your junior career. You had a good thing happening and then a bad thing happening. And this is like, I guess this is more for the older kids that are actually in the hunt, right? For junior, college, pro, that when you're in it, and maybe even the younger kids, maybe just keep it in mind is that when you're playing this game, like what's really good today could be really bad tomorrow. What's really bad today could be really good tomorrow. Could change on a dime. The game changes all over the place through coaches, through ownerships, through trades, through all kinds of things. So the thing that you have to remember when you're playing the game is, screw your head on straight. And I know it's old school to say this, but it's one game at a time, one practice at a time, one shift at a time. It's screwing your head on right so that you don't get too high or too low. And it's so important, right? Because you get a couple goals one game and things are going well. It's like that's not the way it's always going to be, and so you can't be running on a high. And when it's low, you can't be sitting there in the, having a pity party all the time. You have to work yourself to get up. So this is where your habits as a hockey player and your mental mindset make all the difference in the world. Is just being that steady Eddie, and it's one day at a time, living in the moment. That's what I talk about all the time. Is the mental toughness 101 is living in the moment and doing what you can do right now. It's the only thing that matters. So when you're playing this game, trust me, you're going to go have some days where you think you're the greatest guy in the world, player in the world, and things are the best. And you're going to have days where you think like, why do I even play this game? But the key is that what I always say is you keep the dream big, keep the and keep the problem small, and focus on the dream, focus on the goal, and not focus on the issues. Because what will happen is that'll grow, this will shrink. So one day at a time, one shift at a time, and your good habits. And if you do your good habits and you do those kind of things, focusing on what you can control, then you won't have real high highs, you won't have real low lows, and you just go about your business every day. And at the end of the day, you'll be what you are.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I think for me, just on that note too, when you're in that situation, high or low, I seriously think just the common thread through the whole podcast today is that communication piece, man. It's like getting yourself out of bad situations, whether it's with a coach or with your team or whatever. Like a lot of this stuff can be dealt with, improved, whatever, with good communication, whoever it is that's involved in the situation. If you can communicate well, which is, it sounds like it's an easy thing, man, but it's really hard. Like to communicate well, to be effective communicator, to solve problems with your parents, with your coach, with your teacher, with whoever. It's hard to do, especially when you're young and you have to go talk to an adult and you don't have the maturity yet and you don't have the experience yet to be able to work through problems. Getting that on your side where you can communicate well, that's the best antidote to any issue that you're going to have at any point, is being able to work through it, talk through it, think through it with the people around you that have some influence on that situation, So that's a good thing to end on. So we'll keep her there and see you next week, guys.